G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright people, review of the week time. Been looking forward to doing this, sitting down and doing this. With regards to week coming, because obviously before I get into what's been and gone, this week's a weird one for me. So, time this goes out Monday. Don't know if I'll have time to do a live stream on Monday evening, so I'll try and get one in this week before I head away. Tuesday I'm not sure what happens, but you never know what the stories will come out, you never know. And then Wednesday, obviously, I will try and get midweek report out over in the UK, but just depends on the Wi-Fi in the hotel. You never really know what you're going to get there, to be honest with you, if they're good Wi-Fi or if it's poor Wi-Fi. In terms of the rest of the week, I'm going to get some stuff recorded probably tomorrow and just save it, just upload it, but just have it unlisted, and hopefully we'll be covered for the rest of the week. I hope so, because I don't get back until next week, about this time next week. So, and obviously I'm not going to record videos when I come home straight away, like obviously it'll be Monday morning. So we'll wait and see. But that's just a quick update for the week ahead. Let's talk about the week that's been. Specifically, let's talk about the card that happened last night on DAZN. Well now, I enjoyed this card. I didn't watch it live, I watched it this morning, and I saved the best to last, which was Jesse Bam Rodriguez. I waited last. I left his fight on last. I knew the result, but I left his fight till last. I'll start with his. He impressed the hell out of me. I mean, Eddie Hearn locked this kid in because he is going to be a star. He is a tremendously talented fighter. Bam Rodriguez was in there against Srisaket Sorunvasai. Now, personally, I thought that he would win this fight. I did think he'd win it on points. I didn't foresee him winning it as dominantly as he did. I thought Rumvasai would have his moments. I know Rumvasai is 35 and excuse me, he had a fight in 2020. Now, I'm not going to be able to say this guy's name, but I'm not even going to try it. It's a Thailand fighter. I think he's from Thailand anyway. And he looked poor against him. Very poor win in the 10-round points decision. So I kind of felt Rumvasai was maybe near the back end of his career, but still very useful, still very, heavy-handed, and has a good work rate. Even in this fight, he was, keeping that work rate up. Jesse Rodriguez, with his footwork, foot speed, hand speed, his movement in there was tremendous, and he was really able to confuse Rumvasai at times in there with some of the movement. He would come, Lomachenko-esque almost, would come in, pivot, move Rumvasai, and then land the left hook before Rumvasai's even had a chance to even adjust to where his opponent is going. The foot speed of Rodriguez, he's definitely not feather-fisted. Like, he's not a devil. At Superfly, you don't tend to really get them. I mean, a New Way and kind of things like that. And to be fair, Rumvasai as well. But they're more so the exceptions rather than the rules. But Rodriguez definitely has respectable power there. Astro Rumvasai was able to stop him in 8, had him down in the 7th. I thought he might have actually been lucky, Rumvasai, not to have a knockdown called against him in the 4th round, because it did look like maybe the glove didn't actually touch the canvas, but it definitely came close to. It certainly came close to, and he was able to carry on. But going into the 8th round, the writing was on the wall. Very impressed. I was impressed with his performance against Quadras, truth be told, and given the fact that this is a kid who, let's be frank, he up until recently was a 108 pounder. So he's following, in many ways, he's actually following Inoue's trajectory, because Inoue was a 108 pounder, bypassed flyweight, went straight to 115 pounds. Now, personally, I think that Jesse Rodriguez he should stay at Superfly. He looks good at the weight. He can hang with these guys. He can hurt them. He can stop them. So for me, I see no reason why he should go back down to 108. I know his team were saying maybe drop to 112, but the fights are there to be made. I mean, Estrada and Chocolatito, they're the guys at the top. Ioka is fighting Donny Nietes. I think he's fighting him in July at some point. But all them guys need to take note of Bam Rodriguez, because I think he's tremendously talented. I did see Sonny Edwards mention him And flyweight is a tremendous division. I mean, Nakatani is there. He looks tremendous. Sonny Edwards is a fantastic boxer. If somehow they made a fight between Sonny Edwards and Bam Rodriguez winning that fight. Not to say it's not competitive, it definitely is, but I think that he is tremendously talented. I was very impressed with him in there against Sorun Vasai. Very impressed. In terms of the other fights, I seen the super bantamweight fight, MJ Akhmadaliev versus Ronnie Rios. Now, that was a 12-round TKO for MJ Akhmadaliev. I thought he looked brilliant in that fight. I really did. I thought he looked very good. I thought he was, really doing what he wanted to do in there against Ronnie Rios. And, some of his fights, like the Daniel Roman fight, very close, very nip and tuck affairs, but he's really starting himself to come into things, and I think that he is, again, another one, tremendously talented. The fight with Stephen Fulton is a fight that I personally would love to see. As we know, MJ Akhmadaliev is DAZN, Stephen Fulton is PBC Showtime. I would love for them to get that fight over the line. I would hope that they could. I would hope that there is no stumbling blocks, that, we want to see the best fight the best. We want to see that, he's the WBC and he's the WBO champion. Obviously, Akhmadaliev, IBF, WBA, let's get that fight on. In terms of who I think wins the fight, it's a good fight. I would probably just favour Stephen Fulton to win that fight, but I think that it's a tremendous one. And that whole DAZN card, it was brilliant. It was really good. And one thing I got to big up Eddie Hearn and DAZN for is that they are willing to give the smaller guys the limelight. You ever notice that? Like, a lot of promoters won't do that. If they have some of the smaller, the flyweights, the super flyweights, the bantams, then they just kind of push them down the card, or they're always kind of the bridesmaid, never the bride. But not in this case. Not in this case. And, again, tremendously impressed. Very happy with what I saw on that card. It was a very good card. On to the boxer card. Now, I only seen 2 fights on this card. I seen Adam Aziz get a first round win over Anthony Loffett. Yeah, the speed of Adam Aziz was there for all to see. Loffett was down in the first round, his corner threw in the towel, because I think they knew that no point in this guy taking a beating for the next. Like, it was only a minute into the first, but you could just tell that what was going to happen. You didn't need to be a genius to work out what was going to happen in that fight. So his corner, I think, were just like, the hell with this. No point having him laid out. Just chuck the towel in, and that was that. Did kind of, I think, took them both by surprise, because it wasn't like his opponent was getting battered and they kind of just threw it in, and it was almost like a lull in the action. And it was the referee, was it Steve Gray? No, it was a guy called Kevin Parker, and he doesn't have to stop the fight. It's just the corner indicating that they want it stopped. He doesn't have to, but he did in the end. The Sam Egerton fought a guy, Premisla Zezek, spelled like Usek but with a Z. Probably butchering that name. I think that sounds like a Polish. Yeah, it is a Polish name. He is Polish. Very limited. At one stage in that fight, it looked like Sam Egerton was going to stop him. It really did. In the third round, I thought Sam Egerton was actually going to get him out of there, but he didn't. He was actually boxing well at points in that fight, Sam Egerton, and actually doing a good job at actually parrying and slipping shots. Something you don't see from Sam Egerton. Normally he's there to be hit, and he's there to be hit quite a bit. But in this fight, he was definitely doing a little bit better defensively as he slowed down, because he was throwing a lot of shots. He did get it tagged up a bit more, but he was able to get the win. Mick Hennessy was there. I think Mick Hennessy, correct me if I'm wrong, I know Sam Egerton has been fighting a lot on Mick Hennessy cards as of late. Obviously this was on a boxer show, but Mick Hennessy was there with some of his fighters, so I wonder, is Mick Hennessy working with Ben Shalom and Sky? Because, and again, this one kind of, I heard rumours about this, but it kind of came out of left field still. And that is that Chris Billum-Smith, his next fight is actually going to be on Sky. Now, this is a DAZN fight. Well, it was a DAZN fight, or maybe now. Well, I'm not 100% sure, because Billum-Smith's last 2 or 3 fights were on DAZN, and now he's having a fight on Sky. He's fighting Isaac Chamberlain. Isaac Chamberlain, you may remember, Eddie Hearn fighter back in the day. Since then, he's gone his own way. He's gone with Mick Hennessy. I think he signed a what was it, a 3-year deal or something? It was a longish term deal with Mick Hennessy, which again, you know, right? If a fighter signed a long-term deal with say Eddie Hearn or Frank Warren, I'd raise an eyebrow, because I just think that a long-term deal, there's risk there, you know, in terms of where you stand with that promoter, how your relationship is with that promoter. You know, you're probably better off signing a couple of fight deals, you know, a bit like what Eddie Hearn has been doing, 3 fight deals, stuff like that. A long-term deal with them, I'd be raising an eyebrow with, but a long-term deal with someone like Mick Hennessy, I'm like, what the hell? Mick Hennessy? Really? You know? Shades of Ali, Mick Hennessy, that Mick Hennessy. Now, I like this fight, all talking about that aside. Based upon what I've seen from both of them, I would favour Isaac Chamberlain to win this fight, just based on what I've seen from Billum Smith and Chamberlain. Billum Smith's been in a couple of tough fights. I've always rated Chamberlain quite highly. I think he's better than a lot of people give him credit for. And I think that when they fight, you know, when they meet, I think Chamberlain stands a very good chance of winning. I'll be picking him, certainly. So that's a fight we have to look forward to. In terms of, this was reported by Sky News, right? So listen to this. Eddie and Barry Hearn are reportedly in talks with a private firm to potentially sell a minority stake in Matchroom. It's claimed the deal could value Matchroom at 600 to 700 million, and see that Hearn receives 175 million if he opts to sell 25%. So I would assume they would still retain, I should say, the majority share. So they decide where Matchroom's going. But that's interesting. People looking to take 25% off Matchroom, because Matchroom obviously is not primarily just boxing. Matchroom is darts, it's snooker. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone who's a real like hardcore football fan wants to correct me, but was Barry Hearn, was he the chairman of Leyton Orient? Is he still? Or is that moved on? Because I know they had some dealing with Leyton Orient, the football club. I could be correct me on that, but I'm pretty sure they did at one stage. Whether they do or not now, I don't know. I doubt it. I certainly haven't heard anything. But I know they have darts and they have snooker. So that's interesting if that's true. Obviously, Eddie Hearn would still have his majority shares in it. But Hearn has always said that, you know, boxing, he won't be around forever. In a sense that, now what he mean by that is, I would interpret that to mean Matchroom would stay in boxing, but it would fall to Frank Smith on the boxing end, which I don't think would work too well. Frank Smith just isn't that type of endearing character. But Eddie Hearn would probably go behind the scenes and would manage the kind of everything behind the scenes, you know. Maybe he'd look to go darts full time. Maybe he'd see the darts as being a bit more lucrative. You know, I remember Barry Hearn, the story of Barry Hearn, how he found the PDC, because obviously Barry Hearn didn't find the PDC. PDC sort of found him. Was they broke away? I think it was in '93, and you know, Sky were looking to get involved, but it was very small time at that time. So there wasn't really much, like, they were making less money, the PDC, than I think their rivals. But Barry Hearn seen it, I think he's seen it in the Circus Tavern in Essex, I think is where that is. I think it's in Essex anyway. And he saw that, no, this has potential. So that was when Barry Hearn came aboard, and obviously look at it now. So we'll watch that space we'll keep a good close eye on that. Shakur Stevenson versus Robson Conceição is reportedly close to being agreed September 23rd in New Jersey. Now, I gotta give Shakur Stevenson credit for that, because Robson Conceição should be WBC champion, or should have been WBC champion when he fought Oscar Valdez. He's a very good fighter. This is a hard fight for Shakur Stevenson, so it'll be interesting to see how he makes this one look. Will he make it look as easy as his last few fights, or will he have trouble? Because Conceição was not a bad fighter. Certainly not a bad fighter. So I'll definitely be looking forward to having a look at that and seeing how it goes. Canelo and Triple G. We obviously had the press conference there on Friday. Yeah, I seen it. You know, it wasn't... Both guys, they kind of know where it's at. It's not like... There was no real kind of like what AJ and Usyk did, and, you know, AJ trying to intimidate Usyk with the big stare down and stuff like that. There was no real at that. Canelo was asked if he wants to punish Triple G, and he said yes, so hard, because he always talks about me. He talks a load of something about me. He always talks about me. Maybe he wants the last payday for his life. Right, he's got it. He also went on to say that he's two different people. He's pretending to be a nice guy, but he's an a-hole. Now, I did find that funny. Canelo saying that about Triple G. Now, personally, Triple G never came across as a particular a-hole, but the nice guy persona, 2018, I think it was 2018 when he lost that fight to Canelo and he split from Abel Sanchez. That was when you kind of saw Triple G meaner. And what I mean is meaner in interviews. He would speak English less. I don't even think he spoke it at all then, in terms of willingly speaking it. And he really did seem to kind of just decide, you know what, jig's up. I'm just going to be me now. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm not going to, pretend or anything like that. I'm just going to do what I want to do. In terms of him saying he's an a-hole, I doubt that. But in terms of the nice guy, throughout the history of boxing, there have been so many fighters who, when they're on camera, they portray themselves as a nice guy because they obviously want to get up the ladder. I mean, this goes back to the 1930s. What was it? Was it Jack Blackburn? Was he the guy who promoted Joe Louis? Something Blackburn was his name. Can't remember. I think it was something Blackburn. And I think he was in charge of MSG, or he certainly had a lot of connections in MSG. And Joe Louis in the 1930s. This was 20 years removed from Jack Johnson's reign as heavyweight champion. Now, Jack Johnson was the first African-American heavyweight champion. Not a popular champion. That was when the champions before him drew the colour line. And he was able to get a title shot. And Jack Johnson was very braggadocious, was a very abrasive character. The stories about him, speeding through a village, a policeman stopping him and saying, it's a $50 fine. Him giving him 100 and saying, keep the change and coming back the way I came. Stuff like that didn't endear himself to the public. So when he lost that title to Jess Willard, they drew the colour line again. They didn't want another champion like Jack Johnson. In fact, I think it was actually so bad that when Jack Johnson lost his title, they had a colour line for the heavyweights, but prior to Johnson winning his title, but they never had it for the lower weights. The original, I think it was 8-weight class. They never had it for that. But when Jack Johnson lost it, it was harder for African American fighters in any other weight class to get a title shot, much less heavyweight, because obviously Dempsey and Willard, they drew the colour line, so that I think pretty much all of them. Now, when Joe Louis came along, Joe Louis was never as abrasive as Jack Johnson, although he was a bit of a player. But he knew himself, and I think Jack Blackburn, his promoter, I'm pretty sure that was his name, knew, we want you to be the polar opposite to Jack Johnson. So, you can get a title shot and there's no pushback, because they don't want another Jack Johnson with the gold teeth, flashing everything. And, this was a time where, Jack Johnson, it was a time where I think Jim Crow law was still in place in America. People were, it was a horrible time, especially in the South where Johnson was from. So that's happened throughout the history of boxing. And I reckon it was no different with Triple G. Maybe he wanted to endear. And as well as that, I've seen some people say that when someone like Canelo, who only recently, over the last few years, started speaking English, before that he would speak Mexican. For some fighter fans, they don't mind that. But when it's any other language other than Mexican, they're just kind of like, no, we want to know what they're actually saying. With Canelo, it was a case of they didn't really seem to care. But he speaks it now. In terms of this fight, as I said, I will take the fight for what it is. I think Canelo's going to win, but I think that he'll always have a very tough fight with Triple G. I think he'll always have a tough fight with him. Will he have it as tough as he had in the first two? That I doubt. I seriously doubt that. I don't think he'll have as tough a fight as he did the first two, but he'll definitely have moments in there where Triple G is getting there. He will. He'll definitely have moments. He will. Eddie Hearn on a potential fight between Beterbiev and Bivol. Bivol is ready for Undisputed September, October, November if we wait. Bivol's going to make a defence and then do Canelo rematch. So if you want to be Undisputed, strike now. Don't talk to other fights. Don't talk about other fights. Let's make the fight. That's what Eddie Hearn says. But I wonder I wonder, is he really thinking that? Because think of it like this, right? Canelo obviously wants that rematch with Dimitri Bivol. Now, imagine if Canelo, fights Triple G, wants the Bivol fight locked in, and Eddie Hearn goes off and makes Undisputed. Well, Canelo will be... What if, say, Bivol wins, but it's a very tough fight, and maybe he needs more time off to recover? Would he be able to get that? Or Beterbiev wins? Would it void the contract for the Bivol rematch? Would he still have to take it? So I can't imagine, as much as I'd love to see it, and as much as I wish these things weren't an issue, I can't see Undisputed light heavyweight happening. Certainly not this year anyway. Certainly not. Frank Warren has actually confirmed that they've booked the O2 in London. Don't know about... I don't... When you hear this and you're just like, oh, don't be announcing these things before they happen. I'll get on to this next bit now in a sec. But the O2 for Yard versus Beterbiev. Could it do the O2 really? I know Yard has a decent following, but O2 level following? Or certainly to fill it out. But they've booked that for his titles in October. Yard, Beterbiev. Beterbiev, Yard. Crazy. I can't see Anthony Yard winning that fight. Obviously, I was on with Jamie on Thursday night, and me and him had a chat about this, and me and him, same thinking, same rationale behind their thinking. It's probably likely that we're going to see Yard versus Beterbiev and Buatsi versus Bivol. And out of the two fights, as much as I don't think Anthony Yard will win, I sort of see him having a better chance to win than I do Buatsi over Bivol. And the ironic thing is, I probably think that we'll see a more decisive victory for Artur Beterbiev over Anthony Yard than we will for Buatsi versus Bivol. But I think Yard has that power. He has that difference maker. And Beterbiev, Beterbiev is at that age where it can change overnight. Even if you've not been taking a beating or anything like that, it can just, you're 37, it can just, overnight, you can have that shaky performance. Yard early on is sharp, he's accurate, he can punch with the best of them. Beterbiev has been hurt, he's been down in fights, so he can definitely give it, but receiving it as well. I'm not saying he's chinny, but definitely he's been hurt in fights before. So I think that, whereas Bivol, I think just see him outboxing Buatsi, simple as. Maybe if he really goes full out aggressive, he can force a stoppage, but I see him as just basically being outboxed. Adam Smith was recently asked on Anthony Joshua signing with DAZN. I wish him nothing but the best. I honestly mean that. We've had a wonderful partnership, and he's excited in a very in a very professional way. He thanked everybody. We're always going to be in AJ's corner. I wonder if a tear just rolled down to you. I still kind of can't quite get my head wrapped around. Now, don't get me wrong. I think it's a good deal for DAZN, a brilliant deal for DAZN. But AJ with Sky, I mean, that just seemed like a package deal. So he's with DAZN now, and look, obviously I'm interested to see more so what DAZN will offer for existing subscribers and new subscribers, or new customers, I should say. Maybe that's a better word, because I don't know if they're going to do a once-off deal. You can buy this pay-per-view, there you go, and see you later. If I was just, maybe it's not feasible, but surely if you want to get new subscribers, you wouldn't want to just do this fight as a once-off. You'd want to, okay, you buy the fight for, say, the £25, but you get your 3-month subscription. Maybe you get it free, And but speaking of subscriptions, before we carry on, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, ExpressVPN. Gives you unrestricted access to all parts of the internet. The link is in the description and pinned in the comment section. ExpressVPN. Use the link provided, which says G-Man Boxing. You get 3 months free if you sign up for the 12-month subscription. So 3 months free for a 12-month subscription gives you unrestricted access. It can be used in several different countries. Dedicated customer service line. Great reports on Trustpilot. Gives you access to Netflix, YouTube, HBO, Amazon Prime, etc., Sky Go. So pretty much gives you a little bit of everything. A way you can get sports online, a way you can get YouTube from different countries. ExpressVPN, Massive shout out to them, sponsor of this video and newly sponsor of the channel. Can't thank them enough. So link in the description, have a look, help them and help me out as well. Peace, people. Yeah, big up to ExpressVPN, sponsors of the channel, sponsor of this video. Thanks again, people, for that. But yeah, in terms of DAZN, like, I think that it makes sense to just throw in a little caveat for these guys, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of people nowadays, especially with 8 quid. 8 quid is nothing really. I know it's with the way everything's gone now with inflation and all, it's a bit more hard than, you know, to spare with 8 quid than it used to be. But some people barely miss that going out of the account, so, you know, they might just turn around and say, they're putting on some good shows, you know, after age, we'll keep this going. And hopefully it will boost DAZN's figures, because, you know, I obviously want DAZN to do very well. I think it's a brilliant platform, and I'm not happy with pay-per-view, but I understand why they've done it. I understand from a financial point of view why they've done it. I don't think it's down to pure greed. I think it's down to the fact that their platform at the minute, with how they're going about it, with trying to phase pay-per-view out, is unsustainable. Certainly in the short term. So they've obviously had to go down the pay-per-view road, because, you know, you're potentially making a loss on shows that cost an arm and a leg, and shows that aren't generating money. You know, look at like Demetrius Andre versus Jay Quigley. I mean, like, you're telling me that show made a profit? So I can fully understand where they're coming from with the pay-per-view. In terms of other fights that are being talked about, Ben Shalom revealed he's approached Frank Warren and offered Joe Joyce $1.2 million to fight Joseph Parker on Sky Sports pay-per-view next. Could you really do Joe Joyce Parker on pay-per-view? I'm sure you could, but I'm sure they would have done it on BT Sport as well. Frank Warren, from what I gathered, was really not happy with Joseph Parker, because obviously they didn't announce the fight. They announced that it was nearly a done deal on the Fury White show. Everything bar the signature. And then, you know, you were here on July 2nd, which I was looking forward to. And then Joe Parker, I think he said Andy Lee is expecting a baby, so he won't be able to do it that week. And it was like, okay. And then you hear September, and now this happens. He signs a boxer. I'd love to see Joe Joyce versus Joe Parker personally, because like both guys, like especially Joe Joyce, like unless he can get a Fury fight, which I doubt, I just don't see Fury coming and fighting anyone other than the winner of Undisputed. Yeah, maybe, you never know, he might take the Joe Joyce fight, but Joe Joyce is 36 going on 37. I doubt he's made 1.2 million. He might have made something close in the Dubois fight, but I doubt he's made that much. So a payday like that, you know, I'm sure he wouldn't turn his nose up to it. But obviously with Frank Warren is a stubborn character, and he obviously is a bit peed off of Parker, because apparently Parker never came to him and said, you know, Boxer approached him, can you match the offer? And I reckon there's a bit of just spite. You know what Frank Warren is like, he's a spiteful individual, spiteful character. If they could find a way to do Joe Joyce, Joe Parker, I would love it. Personally, I think it's a great fight. I would slightly favour Joe Joyce to win that fight, but part of me thinks that Joe Parker, because I'm hearing rumours that he's going to fight Lucas Brown in his first fight with Sky. I mean, Jesus. Lucas Brown got the win over Junior Fa last fight out. I'm still kind of pinching myself as to how that happened. But him against Parker, I mean, if Parker didn't do a demolition job on Lucas Brown, I mean, there's no hope for him. And what I mean by that is, if he doesn't go in there and just flatten him, then I'm telling you now, there's no hope for him. Because the thing about Parker has always been his lack of killer instinct, his lack of meanness. You've got a guy in there, Lucas Brown, who, as far as I'm concerned, shouldn't be in the ring anymore. You should call it quits. And you're Joe Parker with all the attributes he has. You should be getting rid of him pretty damn quick. And I reckon that Boxer announced that there's some signings coming up this week. I would suspect potentially Dylan White might be one of them. And I wonder if that was the real caveat for Joe Parker. A Dylan White rematch on pay-per-view. He wants to avenge that loss. And I wonder, is that the main caveat for Dylan White? Jake Paul will now face Tommy Fury August the 6th on Showtime pay-per-view in MSG. So that fight is now ticked, signed, done deal. So it's interesting. That's very interesting. So they've finally been able to get that fight over the line. Obviously, it was meant to happen December 18th in Florida. I think originally was where it was supposed to be. Now it's happening in New York. The rumor mill going around is that Tyson Fury, and again, rumors, that he was allegedly not let on another flight to the US over the situation and his ties to El Chapahan. So John, we know, can't go to America. We know that because of the convictions he has from a few years ago. So that's, John Fury won't be there. But Tyson not there as well. I wonder how that would affect Tommy. You know, I mean, he can always bring Molly May, ha 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 ha, but maybe having the stability of his family around him. I mean, I know Tyson likes having Shane and, you know, his entourage there, and I wonder, now maybe by August all that issues with El Chapahan on Fury's end will be sorted, so he should be able to travel. It's still another, it's about 5-6 weeks away, yeah, about 5 weeks away, so actually quite quick, to be honest with you, how quick that fight's going to come about. But yeah, we'll wait and see. In terms of the fight, honestly, Tommy Fury is garbage. He looks garbage in the ring, and I would put him on par with Jake Paul. Personally, I feel that Jake Paul will win the fight. And will I watch it? Will I do a watch along for it? Yes, you damn right, I'll do a watch along. I want to be entertained. I think it's entertaining, and I'll do a watch along for it. Definitely. I think that's a bank holiday weekend here in Ireland as well, so I'll for sure stay up and do a watch along for that fight. I don't mind this fight. I really don't. See some people getting up in arms and like, oh my god, it's so terrible. How can they? I don't really mind. I think it's going to be a fun fight. It's going to be fun. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, if Tommy Fury loses, man, John Fury, my son, how could you? You know, John Fury is like, John Fury try and swim across the Atlantic just to get to Jake Paul, just to get to Tommy probably. Jesus, I can only imagine. But yeah, look, I'll watch it, definitely. Laurence Okolie, now this is an interesting one from the Boxing Voice. Asked if he is still with Eddie Hearn, he says, yeah, can't talk about it right now. Is this live? Then I'm with Eddie. Same question, same answer when he was asked about his Joshua 258 management deal. That's interesting. I was always under... So, rumour mill was going around that Laurence Okolie was approached by Sky and that he may be looking to actually go and move over to Sky. But I would imagine that, you know, DAZN and Eddie Hearn could still get Laurence Okolie fights. I mean, apparently he was looking to fight Gulamarian next, which would have been a decent enough scrap. And maybe looking to go Sky instead. It's interesting. So, we'll watch the space with Laurence Okolie. And obviously he was quite close with AJ as well, with 258 management. So, is he looking to branch out and do his own thing? Is he looking at Sky and thinking, you know what, I like what Ben Shalom has set up there. I think I'd be happier over there than I would be over here, potentially. But like, when I look at the Sky and their cruiserweight landscape, I mean, like, Richard Riakporhe obviously is the first name that jumps out at you. Is that really a big fight? Is that bigger than going down the road of fighting Briedis? Is it better than going down the road of fighting the Makabu? You know, obviously Billum Smith and Chamberlain are fighting. Maybe he might look at the winner at that. Actually, no. If Chamberlain wins, no rematch, please. That first fight was... But you know what I mean. I just find it bizarre. And as well as that, right, Okolie is huge at cruiserweight. Like, how long can he make cruiserweight? If he is with Sky, Joe Parker, Dylan White, they're the only real heavyweight. Like, as assuming Dylan White signs, but that's it really for heavyweights. Better off just staying with DAZN. But if he's not happy, if he feels it's a better deal, and again, like, I'm not preaching loyalty. Don't misconstrue it as loyalty, as in you should be loyal to Joshua, you should be loyal to Eddie Hearn. No, go where makes you the most money. But you also got to think, you also got to factor in what's their landscape in my division like there. Is there big fights? Can they get me the big fights? More is the question. And I would imagine DAZN probably shouldn't be that big an issue. But Sky, I mean, maybe, who knows? So we'll watch the space with that, and I think we are good to go with Review of the Week for the week. So, Monday start, and obviously, as I said, I'm not 100% sure what way we'll work it this week with regards to videos. Obviously, I'll try and get midweek report out on Wednesday. I'll either record a lot of videos, I'll record one or two, not tonight, Sunday now, but Monday night, or do a live one or the other. And I have a boxing hype job video planned for Thursday, so we have that, and then maybe we'll see what we'll do. Maybe I'll take the weekend off, who knows, but we'll wait and see, because even though I'm away, I like keeping the channel going, because right now, currently, I mean, that AJ video I did on how he could beat Usyk is doing better than I ever thought it would have, and currently we're sat at 7,932. We've gained 200 subs in 10 days, crazy. So I obviously want to keep that ball rolling, I want to keep that snowball effect going. I'm really happy with that, and we are 68 subs away from 8K. But the way it's been growing lately, potentially we could actually hit 8K this week, which would make me so goddamn happy if we did. I'd be so happy if we hit 8K this week or in the coming days, because that would mean then that I started the year on 6K, and by the end of June I'm on 8K, which means that it will be hopefully a nice big push to the end of the year to get to the magic 10. That's the goal for me, is to get to 10K by the end of the year. I'm sure I can do it. 100% now I can do it, especially with the way things on the channel have been lately. It's been going brilliant, so fingers crossed for that. But big up to everyone, and obviously keep liking the videos, keep sharing them. Share the AJ how 3 reasons why AJ can beat Usyk video, because that thing is doing I thought it would do good, but not as good as it's done. It's done crazy good, like really, really good. So really happy with that one. For now, lads and lassies, I'll leave you with that. Hope you enjoy your Monday. Hope you all have a great week. And smash the like button as well. Hit subscribe, and we'll see. We'll try and get a live out before I head away. For now, I'll talk to you. Peace.